Start. There we go. All right, so let me introduce myself. My name is Jocelyn Maharis, and I'm the nonprofit training chairperson for Junior League of Boca Raton.
Let's see here.
We're having issues here. Okay. I wanted like to welcome you to our training, Foundation Directory Online, Essential Access and Training and Demonstration. The Junior League of Boca Raton is here to make a difference in the lives of the people in our community. Beyond our commitment to promoting volunteerism, developing the potential of women, and improving the community through effective action and leadership of trained volunteers, part of our vision is to partner with and support fellow nonprofits. There are many nonprofits doing wonderful work in our community, and by working together, we can be a stronger catalyst for positive change. Alexis Flanagan, who is presenting today, has spent over 20 years in Atlanta's social sector, inciting change and intersecting aspects. Prior to her role at Candid as network engagement manager, beginning her tenure as a community outreach manager with the Foundation Center South. She served as a public Montessori teacher for many years, and more recently as an ECE site director within homeless spearheading outreach, advocacy, and public benefits services. As network engagement manager, Alexis serves as liaison by providing a deeper level of engagement, technical assistance, and training to the Southern Region's Funding Information Network. Alexis strives to encourage and inspire each and every person she meets and hopes to always do so with a sunny disposition. So I'm going to turn this over to Alexis, who's going to teach us all how to use the Foundation Directory Online. Thank you, Alexis.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate it, Jocelyn. So what I'm going to do, I do not see the option that I need to use, which is where you draw the screen that you want to show. So I'm going to have to, so I can still see the notes that they've provided for us. But I don't think I'm going to be able to see the notes. So we'll get through this together.
That's okay.
And yeah, I think it'll be fine. And what I'm going to do is kind of go through the slides that we have here, and then I'm just going to jump right into a demo. So if you guys have questions as we go through, please feel free to jump in, send a chat if you like, and if it's a really pressing question and you just can't let me go to the next part without getting that answered, feel free to jump in. And looking forward to sharing this information with you. So welcome to Introduction to FDL. Okay, well, how do you get to the next one? Okay, let's see. That's not what we want either. Hold on one second, no. Let's start over. Okay. What is Candid? So on February 1st, 2019, Foundation Center and GuideStar joined forces to become Candid. This is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and together we have brought a combined 88 years of expertise and millions of data points to Candid. Why Candid? Now, every year, millions of nonprofits spend trillions of dollars around the world. Candid finds out where the money comes from, where it goes, and why it matters. How are we doing this? Through research, collaboration, and training. We connect people who want to change the world to the resources they need. And we do so through some of our websites that we have, such as Candid Learning, Issue Lab, GrantCraft, Glass Pockets, Philanthropy News Digest, just to name a few. This is our response to COVID-19 as well as the Black Lives Matter movement. And Candid actually took a stance to try to pool resources and make sure that we have specific pages for racial equity as well as COVID-19. So there are resources there, links to literature, there are links to grants that are available. other organizations that are doing work within these fields. So please feel free to jot down either website, or I'll give you my email address at the end. You can always follow up with me if you have further questions about either. And to find out a little bit more about Candid, you could go to our Facebook, our Twitter, or Instagram, and it is candid.org, because there's another Candid and it has nothing to do with us. So if you just put in Candid, you will see lots of fun stuff about teeth. And you can sign up for our online newsletter right down here, bit.ly/Candid Learning Newsletter. Or you can use your phone and do the cool little millennial thing right there to the right. And this is Introduction to FDO. So upon completion of this training, you should be able to, and you guys have to bear with me because usually I can see how many points I'm supposed to click, but I can't see that. So as I stated, we'll go through this together. Explain what Foundation Directory Online is. You'll be able to identify your needs before searching an FDO. You'll be able to get help with FDO if you need it. Find prospects with the project-based search. Evaluate if those prospects are a good fit for your needs. Identify options for accessing FDO. How do you search for funders now? So most people just look online. A lot of times they just like Google RFPs. Some people search GuideStar, and some people look at 990s to see what foundations are giving monies to. So FDO, Foundation Directory Online, unsurpassed. And this is a new slide, okay? Because at first they just kind of softly mentioned that, you know, we have about 150,000 different funders in there, close to 1 million recipients. They wanted to make sure that this is something that you guys really know and understand, that there's a very small but mighty team that has spent years of their life gathering data, combing through 990s, calling organizations, calling the IRS, to be able to have all of this data for you guys, to be able to really do the work that you were put here to do. So right now, FDO currently has over 165,000 funders in the system, over 1 million plus recipients in the system, over 4 million grants plus, and they are added yearly. We have detailed profiles of funders, grants, recipients, and companies, and this is updated daily. Now, what this particular slide is referencing is FDO Professional, which is the version of FDO that each one of our Funding Information Network partners, which the Junior League of Boca Raton is one, they all have those in-house, the FDO Professional. So this is the full highest tier of FDO. Now, for the remote access, which is what most of our community is using right now, it is called FDO Essential. And FDO Essential has the funders in there. You won't be able to see the recipients as easily, or the grants, but you'll still be able to see the funders and the grants that the funders get. These are our data sources. This is where we get all of this information from. Grantmaker websites, annual reports, published application guidelines, philanthropic press, federal government grants, 30 plus other information sources, which sometimes it's the actual organization itself, and then the direct reporting from the grant makers. So in order for you to get started with using FDO, the first thing you need to do is identify your needs. Ask yourself 3 questions. Who are you serving? Where are they? What are you planning to do for them? And this is extremely important. If you don't have answers to one of these questions, I would consider you as just someone who's doing research. If you do have the answers to these questions, I would say that you're ready to actually search for grants and possibly apply for some. So think about it like that. If you don't have the answers to all of these questions, you're really just going in to do a little bit of data mining and gather research. So this is how you evaluate prospects for a strong or weak fit. First of all, making sure that you align with the grant maker is extremely important. This is important because it takes a lot of time and effort into searching for grants, applying for grants, writing the grants, sending them off, especially the ones who do not take online applications. So we feel it is very important for you to make sure that you are assessing your needs and making sure that you're a good fit for an organization prior to sending out that grant or that proposal. You want to ask yourself, do I meet these funders' requirements? Is my mission this project, is it a goal or priority for this funder? And that's really important. If there is a funder that you see gives less than 5,000 a year to sports endeavors, and they give well over 2 million a year to educational aspirations and pursuits, I personally wouldn't think it would be a good idea to send a proposal for $10,000 to that organization when you see that the sports endeavors are not a priority for them. So think about it in that way, and I'll show you how to be able to assess that. How big are the grants that they give? This is super important. The ask is almost as important as why you're asking for it. You want to make sure that the ask is the correct amount. I have a personal story of, it's a foundation center story of our office. We applied for a grant from an organization that we had received dollars from for the last 10 years. Same amount every single year, maybe $500 here and there, give or take. Well, my supervisor at the time sent in the grant application, did not follow up with that particular funder. She was very familiar with the program officer, so she thought everything would be fine. Sent it off for the same amount we always ask for, the same endeavors, the same programming, the same activities. And we received a denial, which was a huge surprise because this particular foundation was also on our board. So we weren't expecting that. My supervisor was just, it kind of shocked her, kind of to her core. So she never followed up because she assumed naturally that she did something wrong. Well, she ended up running into the same program officer at another event. And she went up to her and was like, hey, we really need to talk about that denial we received. And she, she was a little confused and she was like, denial. And she said, yeah, the 2,500 requests we sent. And she said, oh, we're not doing that amount anymore. That's too low. Just, call my secretary. We'll set up an appointment and we'll talk. And when she came back that day, she was like, I never even thought to follow up and make sure that this amount was okay. I never even thought that. They just sent us a note. They didn't have the time to say, hey, this is not enough. We've been funding you for 2,500 for the last 10 years. Are you guys not doing more work? Do you not need more money? She never thought about that. And so just keep that in mind. We received that denial. Had she not run into her, who knows? So just keep that in mind. Does this funder support organizations like mine? Super important. It's important if especially you don't know the organization. If this is a funder that you know, that's a little different. Maybe you guys have a prior relationship. They always make consolations for organizations they like, unfortunately. But if they don't know you, then they're probably going to do everything by the book. Last but not least, do I know anyone associated with this funder? Very important. This is where your board comes in. Your board is really who's supposed to help make those connections for you. Of course, the ED, the grant writer, the development director, you guys are a little busy. A lot of times you don't have time to comb through LinkedIn or comb through the registration pages of conferences to see if a foundation or a funder that you're pursuing will be there. That's where your board comes in. If there's a particular organization that you guys are trying to court, that's where one of your board members should be able to make that introduction in some way. Do they know someone who knows someone? Maybe they can volunteer at that organization and get a leg up. Maybe they went to college or in some type of sorority or fraternal organization that they can make a connection. Think about things of that nature. Where can you access FDL? So there are more than a few places you can access it. This first picture represents the library. And most of our funding information network partners are libraries, public libraries. We also have universities, community colleges, but then we also have very, very special funding information network partners that are community organizations, nonprofit resource centers, and things of that nature. Even foundations. We have a few that are foundations. So The ones that we have, you can go to learning.candid.org/find us. You'll be able to see where they are. It's free to access FDO from any of these locations. And we're all over the world. We have about 400 in the United States, and we have a presence in each and every state in the United States. So regardless of where you are, you'll be able to find a funding information network partner. Our goal is to be able to have one that's within 4 hours of every individual in the United States. But right now, depending on the state that you're in, there could be a lot, there could be a little. In Florida, we have a lot. Florida, Texas, and North Carolina are my biggest FIN funding information network states in the South. So regardless of where you are, you should be able to find one that is close to you. Now, last but not least, we do have FDO Remote, that is FDO Essential. And so this is available to anyone. All you have to do is be able to find one of your funding information network partners, contact them, and ask for the link. Some of them have it on their website where you sign in and you're able to get it. Some of them have where you will fill out a little short application and then they'll email you the link. And some of them, there are other ways where they could just get the link to you easily. Sometimes it's a firewall. Sometimes you just sign in with your library ID, things of that nature. Oh, here we go. Okay. Let's see if there's another one. Okay, great. Okay, let's go back. Okay, great. So where can you get help with FDO? So they do have self-serve resources, and that's kind of how Candid likes to work. They love to make it so that you actually don't need a human to be able to get what you need on our websites or by way of our database. They have the FDO Quick Guide. And so basically what the Quick Guide does is breaks down some of our terms and just helps you figure out what terms you need to search to be able to catch the correct algorithm with FDO. And that's how everything works with the database. It's an algorithm, you guys will see that. Sometimes it's super fun and sometimes it can be frustrating. So just keep an open mind. We have plenty of help articles. Those are found on Candid Learning, also on candid.org. And then we have a plethora of YouTube videos, which is super cool. Even this class that I'm giving right now, you can find that on YouTube. And we updated all of the introduction classes. This is considered an introduction class. So the voices that you'll hear on there are people who actually work for Candid right now. So before they were a little bit older, but it's all of us now. So we're really excited for that because we feel like YouTube stars. And person-to-person assistance. So you have a few options here. Library staff, which is really any of our funding information network partners. What we call the leads are FIN leads. So every single network partner has a FIN lead who is considered an expert. I know that is like a little bit controversial, but they are considered an expert in the Foundation Center, Candid, GuideStar realm. So they're the ones that can kind of help you, point you to the correct resources. The good part is if they don't have the information, then they have the direct line to me. And so if I don't have the information, then I have the direct line to the individuals who literally made this stuff. So it makes it a little bit easier for you guys on the other side. And then last but not least, you can always chat and email with Candid staff. So that includes myself, but also on the Candid Learning website, there's a box called Chat, Contact Us. And if you click there, there's an actual librarian. We call them OLs, online librarians. And they're there. They're not 24 hours, but Eastern time, it's around 7 to 7, where you could click on there and get any help you want. On FDO's website, if you're using the database, they also have the Contact Us screen where you can chat instantly with someone. And I will tell you, they work really, really hard to get any answers. They follow up with us. They make sure we followed up with anyone that they send to us. So it's a really, really good option, especially if you just don't have anyone around or anything like that. So what is next? This is what Candid will recommend for you to take next. Now, I will say, before you do fundraising planning, I would say take Introduction to Finding Grants. Fundraising planning is an excellent class, and it's all about how to plan for your fundraising, different types of fundraising, which is super important. If you're doing a capital campaign, it's a little bit different than if you guys are trying to get some in-kind donations. So just keep that in mind. If you're going in that direction, it's definitely a good class to take. It can be a little daunting if you guys are not at that place yet. So just keep that in mind. But the good part is it's self-paced, so you can take it on YouTube at any time for free. Introduction to Finding Grants. This particular class is all about how to find grants and for what. What exactly are we doing with these grants? How are we going to use these grants? How are we going into the system, FDO, and yielding the best results? So it's a really interesting class, and it really gives you a lot of that insight that sometimes you wouldn't know, some of that insider info that you may not get any other time. And so I will look at the chat. I thought I saw one thing here. Oh, okay, great. Thank you so much, Jocelyn. And if there are no questions, I think we're gonna get to our demo. Okay, I was supposed to do that part. And then if you guys have any feedback, please feel free to send me an email. We love that stuff. So I'll put my email in the chat at the very end. And then give me 1 second and I will pull up FDO. All right, great. Okay, now we're ready for the big time. So Foundation Directory Online. I am currently using the FDO Essential link from our partner that's here in Georgia and Athens, right next to UGA. And this is a public library. So each and every one of our Funding Information Network partners has a link for you to use FDO Essential from home for free. All you have to do is reach out to them. Down here is the chat with an expert button. And up here is also the chat. First thing you'll see when you log on is this screen. So this is considered the home screen. And this particular screen houses the generic search engine that we use for FDO. And I'll show you a little bit about that. As we scroll down, we love videos and information here. So lots for you. We love words. And then this is talking a little bit more about foundation funding in Georgia. So depending on where your link is coming from, then that's going to have some specific information for the state that you'll be logging on from. Okay, so one thing I like to do when I show people FDO Essential is put in a really, really generic search term, just so you guys can see what pops up. And then I'll go in later and put in something a lot more specific. And it'll just kind of show you how these results are yielded. So let's see if it's still, okay. So I'll put in after school program in Atlanta. So this is considered extremely generic. This search term that I put in, many reasons why. I wasn't specific about where in Atlanta. I wasn't specific about what type of after school program. I wasn't specific about how old the children are. I wasn't specific about socioeconomic or any other factors that could lead to us being able to get more funding for this program. I was very generic and I just simply said, hey, we're doing an after school program in Atlanta. I didn't talk about the subjects we'll be teaching in this after school program. I just put this in because I just simply wanted to know what kind of funding is out there for programs like mine. So I'm going to search that. As we go down. So first it's going to give you an amount of grant makers. So we got almost 2,000 grant makers. That's really exciting. And then these are the 990 tax forms, over 11,000. Not so exciting because, you know, if you've ever looked at one, not the funnest thing to go through, but so much information. I'm going to go down, and then you'll again see specifics of the 990s and the grant makers. So I'm going to expand this. I'm going to view all of the grant makers. I just want to get an idea of who is on this list. As I go down, and I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about the stuff up here when we go back. As I go down, the number one organization I see is the Community Foundation for Greater Atlanta. And there's a reason why. It's because they are the number one funder for what I am searching in metropolitan Atlanta. And so that's pretty much how the results work. They're going to give you whoever funded the most grants, given the most monies for specifically what you search for. So just make sure what you search for is what you want to yield results for, because it could be really confusing. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click off of this right here because I'm clumsy. And we're going to go down. We just want to see who is offering dollars in after school program services. Some of these are really notable organizations like Bank of America and Amazon Smile, Wells Fargo. These are well known all over the country, but some are not as well known. Like Arthur M. Blank, unless you're a sports fan, then you'll know who that is, or Zeist Foundation. Now, some of these for us in Georgia are local, like Coca-Cola or Publix, even though they're in Florida, but they have a headquarters here, Delta. These are local. So they are corporate, but they also have that extra piece because they are actually in the communities. And so I'm going to give you guys a little bit of insider information that I like to share. So depending on how new and experienced your organization is, whenever I'm giving this class to newer organizations, newer grant writers who are working with teeny tiny little startup development shops, I tell them, unless you have a lot of outcomes and some proof of other local large foundations funding you, I say it's best to kind of set your sights on these corporate foundations. The reason is because number one, they're really, really big and they have a lot of money. That's number one. And so with that money, they're constantly making money. It's not like a regular nonprofit where their money, for the most part, is donated in some way. These organizations are started by corporations who feel the need to do some type of charitable giving. Now, on our side, on the nonprofit side, we're not that connected to if they're doing it for what reason, but a lot of times they'll set up shop in a place, in a city, in a state, and what they'll do is set up a charitable organization so that they can give back to that community that they essentially take dollars from. So if you are in an area where there is a foundation that is corporate and they're in the area that you guys are looking to do your services, and if you guys align with program areas and activities, this could actually be a funder for you. So you want to think about it in that way. Now, these smaller foundations, like Sea League Foundation, up there we had Whitehead, John and Mary Franklin. These foundations, a lot of times, are started by families or trusts and things of that nature. And so with that, that means that number one, they usually don't have many employees. Usually the ED may be the only employee. Everyone else is a volunteer. So if the board is looking at applications 4 times a year, each quarter that they have a board meeting, and they receive 2,000 applications, and there are 12 people on the board, as you can imagine, I mean, they're going to hope, they're going to try to get through each and every application. Sometimes they don't. They're going to try to read each and every grant and proposal, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's just not enough bandwidth. I have told people, and this has come from foundations' mouths that I know, I've told people that I had a foundation tell me, a huge foundation here in Georgia, if they can't get through the first 3 sentences, they move on. They just don't have the time. 3 sentences. That's what, hello, our names are, you know? So I always tell people, start off really dynamic if you're making this first time introduction to this particular foundation. But when it comes to the corporate foundations, a lot of times they have an online portal. You can just log into the portal, copy and paste your proposal in, talk about your outcomes, talk about what you would like to do. Somebody's going to read over that. If they like it, boom, they'll partner with you. As small as 500, as much as whatever, you know, their limitations are. Keep that in mind. It's always an easier way if you decide to send off a large number of grants to corporate foundations, because a lot of times you can just use the same proposal. This isn't candid advice, this is Alexa's advice. So a lot of times you can use the same proposal, changing it around a little bit when it comes to the corporate. When it comes to those local foundations, I wouldn't suggest the copy and paste, only because each one of those foundations have such specific funding interests that you want to make sure that you're showing them how you align and that you have done your research on that particular foundation. That's really, really important. Making sure that they know that you know who they are. So going through, I think we had a really good number of organizations. So what I want to do is advance this. So I'm going to open up our search criteria, because when I was looking at the top here, I realized there are a few things that we actually may not be doing. For instance, say my after school program it's in Atlanta, but Atlanta has a really large metropolitan area. So I want to broaden that out. So what I'm going to put is metropolitan Atlanta. And so this is how the algorithm works. As you type out things, it basically suggests what it thinks you're trying to say. And when it comes to the subject area, this is the algorithm here. This is all of our search terms. Any word you put in, it's going to try to match it with something in the search terms that we already have. But sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it can't find a search term that's close to what it is that you're trying to look for. With that being said, that's where you have to go in. When you see a little caret, you click on it, and that expands the search. This is going to be very helpful if you have a program that's a little bit more specified and not your run-of-the-mill nonprofit organization program. Now, for me, for my after-school program, we're probably not going to do any human services. You know, we're not going to deal with misplaced youth or children that may have behavioral issues or anything like that. We're just simply doing a really run-of-the-mill, really fun after-school program. So I'm going to click here into education. So my point right now is to try to either broaden or narrow down my search. Because if I felt like the almost 2,000 grant makers we had was a little bit overwhelming, I can do things to either broaden or narrow down that search. It's all on you. Now, what I did here, this is going to broaden my search because I broadened my geographic focus. And keep in mind, the geographic focus is where you are doing the program, not where you're located or where your address is for the program. It's specifically where you guys are doing these services, because that's what the grant maker needs to know. They don't really need to know like, oh, I live in Cobb County in Georgia. And so, but we're actually doing the services in Dade County in Florida. So I'm applying for Cobb County service funding because I live in Cobb. And so even though I know I'm going to be in South Florida doing the services, I'm still going to ask for Georgia grant makers. That's not really how it works. You want to ask for dollars from the individuals and the organizations that are in the areas that you're going to be performing those services. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to broaden out my search terms a little bit. Maybe I didn't feel like 1,900 was enough. So I want to see what more I can pull in. So I'm going to go ahead and click on early childhood. That's going to make it so that it's super broad, because then that includes children under the age of 5. Let's see, let's look at student services. Oh, that's a little older than we want. Oh, we clicked on here. So this is going to tell you exactly what to our algorithm out of school learning means, or after school programs. So when you look in elementary and secondary education, we may not be doing bilingual, we may not be doing charter school. Okay, so we'll leave that there so that they have a better idea when it's pulling in the grants, the results. It knows specifically what it is we will and will not be doing. As I go in here, so we already have students and children and youth. Let's talk about the specifics of the age groups. So let's say, even though I said early childhood, let's say we're going to take off infants and toddlers, but just keep children, because we may have some pre-K students in there if this is an elementary school. Going down, say we wanted to pull other types of funding for this particular after-school program. Say I wanted to pull funding that had to do with ethnic and racial groups, then I can be more specific about who's going to be in this program and what the demographic is. Say we plan on helping with family dynamics in this particular after-school program, then I can click in here and add more search terms. Usually social economic status is one that when people are working with children, I tell them to look into that to see if there's anything there that could align. All right, so it looks good to me. Organization name. This is where you would put the name of any specific organization that you guys are searching for. A lot of times, we're just trying to see, who has what, but say you guys are interested in Coca-Cola and you just want to see what type of grants they have specifically for after-school programs, then you could put their name in right here. You can put the name of, the location of a grant maker or recipient if you're looking for someone specific. And the who's who is specifically for if you know someone or you have the name of someone that works for, usually it's foundations, but I have put in individuals that work for nonprofits and it's come up. I'm gonna click on additional filters just to show you guys. I won't be putting anything down here, but I definitely think it's important if you are the grant maker or the development manager. This talks about support strategy. Now, this is why it's super important when it comes to taking the intro to finding grants, because it goes a little bit more into support strategy. What type of fundraising campaign is this? What are we looking to do? Are we re-granting funds? Are we just simply asking for funds so I can write grants for other organizations that are actually doing the physical work on the ground floor? Are we just trying to do evaluation research? Do we just want to kind of go in and pull data? And we need money to be able to do that, to pay these individuals who are pulling this data. So just keep that in mind. It just depends on what you really need to do with the dollars for, that's going to determine if you need to put a support strategy. If you're looking for general operating funds, general support, personally, I do recommend putting that in. Not everyone wants to give general operating funds. So in my opinion, it makes it a little bit easier to know who to apply to. If you're applying to corporate, usually the corporate funders give that. A lot of times it's the smaller foundations that don't like to give general operating funds, unless they know you. This goes into transaction type. How is this money coming to you guys? Are you guys doing employee matching, which is always fun to get a little check every month from that? Are you guys giving grants to individuals? Employee volunteer services, do you just need the cash grant? Are they just going to send you a check? Block grants, are they giving it to you in specific entities? And then this is where you're going to put the organization type. This is really important if you have those specifics, as I stated, that you're looking for. Now, if you try to type things into here, it's going to do the same thing with the algorithm. It's going to try to match it up with something that may be helpful and may not be helpful. So just keep that in mind. This is where you can be specific about the grant amount or the years. This is really good for those individuals that are in here to pull data. You can put a keyword search in here, or if you have that EIN number of a specific organization, put that on in. I'm going to search because I put in some extra terms and I just want to see how that turned out. So let's go down. I'm gonna put that up. This narrowed down my search. It brought me from 1900 to 16. And so just I'm gonna show you guys how to look at what grants are current. And so just watch, because it took me a few times to remember how to do this. So when you come down, you'll see under here, it says view grant makers only. I also click that here, view all. So when I click view grant makers only, so it's going to change the page to only the grant makers. I'm going to go down and I want to exclude grant makers who are not currently accepting applications. When you take the introduction to FDL on YouTube, they make it very clear that you should not click that. So please don't tell me, but I suggest if you are looking for current dollars, that you guys are looking to apply for dollars now, today, then that is the easiest way to find out what grants exist right now. As you can see, we went from 1,600 to 609. That means that over 1,000 of those grants were past grants, grants that existed and that were given to recipients, but may not currently be accepting applications. So depending on what you're in the system for, that may matter and may not matter. I personally like to see what is current. What do you guys have for me now? Let's talk about saving this information. Now, once you get to this screen, if you feel like, okay, great, now this feels a little bit less overwhelming. I only have 600 to go through. How can I narrow it down more? How can I save these to be able to go through another time? So right here to the right, you see tools. There are 3 ways. You can download a PDF. Well, of course, I have to click the ones I want them to save, and you can download a PDF. What this PDF does is it gives you a page. It looks literally identical to this. And the good part is the links are clickable. Now, if you do this from the junior league, when we all open back up and you guys are in there using FDL Professional, your links will not be clickable, but your links will be clickable from here. Because you have the essential, the remote version. So the second way you can do that is download this as an Excel spreadsheet, which I bet you that's so fun to look at. Looks just like this. This is really good for like boards. If you have a board meeting or something of that nature and you're tasked with finding a specific amount of grants for a particular project or program, it's really easy to just download this as a PDF, and you can easily show who is giving money for that, how much they're giving, where they're located, what are their total assets, and all that good stuff. Last but not least, you can email these results to yourself. So it's going to be a PDF, and I'll show you what that looks like. You enter this in, and it sends it right to you. And then you could also send yourself a copy if you're sending this to someone else. So keep that in mind. There's always a way for you to be able to come back and get this information that you need. And sometimes I've gotten emails from individuals that they didn't save, they went in, they saw something, and they just cannot remember what it is. And there have been times where, I had FDO up, I was on the phone, and, we combed through to try to find it, and we found that grant maker. So I really suggest making sure that you save any results just to avoid anything on the back end, especially with the holidays coming up. Like, it's going to be super hard to find people. So what I want to do now is I want to take a look into one of these grant maker profiles. I'm going to look at a corporate, and then I'm going to look at a local. So let's look at Delta. This is what every grant maker profile looks like on the inside. So some of the information that's going to make it so that you know how up to date it is right here at the top. They last updated the profile in February, but the grant information was last updated just a few days ago. And so they're an e-grant reporter. Let's see if that comes up for you. And so basically they just volunteer the information. If you see that, then you know that this is an organization that probably is going to have the most up-to-date information in FDO. So not all organizations self-report. Some of them we have to request information. The smaller organizations, a lot of times I would definitely say try to follow up with them for whatever information you see in the system, especially if you see it has not been updated in at least a year's time, because things do change. So at the top here, you'll see those same tools. Okay, and then this one, you can tag this particular organization. As you go down, this will take you to Who's Who, which is down at the bottom of this page. I'll show you that. And then the contact info is also down at the bottom. This tells you where it's located. And so this is the smoke and gun here. This is going to give you a 5-year glance at their giving. Let's see how we can, there we go. This is a very, very important part of the searching for grant process. Now, on the left, purple, this is telling you about what they like to fund. What endeavors do they actually put their money into? My favorite thing to do is to look at the very last one and say, oh, they hardly give any dollars to this. And then you look and it's $2 million. So obviously they still fund environmental pursuits, but number one is education here, over 35 million. Where is this money going? With these corporate entities, as I stated, you're going to see that most of the money is going to go to wherever the headquarters is. Sometimes it's 100%. A company like Delta, it's not going to be 100% in one place. Why? Because they're located everywhere. So Delta is a really good partner to have, because regardless of where you're located in the world, they're probably going to do charitable giving there. But as far as Georgia is concerned, almost 43 million has been given. And this is the last 5 years, guys. How big are the grants? Overwhelmingly less than $5,000. Overwhelmingly. I mean, it doesn't even come close. So what does this mean for you if you are a potential partner with the Delta Airlines Foundation? This means that if you submit your very first application or RFP or proposal to them, I suggest keeping the dollar amount under $5,000. Now, I'm not an expert on Delta Airlines Foundation at all. I don't know them. I haven't had the opportunity to work with them. But per the data that I have pulled, it shows me that overwhelmingly they give $5,000 to whoever they partner with. Now, less than 500 in the last 5 years have received $5,000 to $10,000 grants. And I guarantee you, these are organizations that they believe in, that they have already partnered with, and that they feel like are going to bring them a good return on their dollars, which is really all that matters. Will they get a good return? This is all that matters to every foundation. Are we going to get a good return on our dollars? It's very important, because think about it, they're also fundraising. They need to be able to tell their funders and stakeholders the same thing. So this part gives you a really good quick snapshot of what direction you need to go if you decide to pursue this particular foundation. And keep in mind also, if you are in one of the states that aren't as light, that doesn't mean that it's a no-go, but that could present a barrier. So definitely know that. Okay, so we're gonna go down a little bit. So now we're looking at funding interests. And as we scroll down, you'll see to the left, each one of these will light up as we get to that area. So this is just like a quick way to jump to where you need to jump to. If you're in here and you're right on the money there, trying to hurry up and find this info. Funding interests, subjects. This tells you everything that Delta will fund. Where? Population groups. So why this is important for you, you guys need to make sure that your funding interests, your interests and your issue area is going to align with their funding interests, with their geographic focus, and with their population groups. Okay. Very important. You go down, they're talking about their support strategies. What type of dollars do they give? Definitely give program support, operating support, sponsorships. They even give dollars for fundraising, cash grants, and they do employee matching. And this is a company sponsored foundation. So here, related organizations, you're going to see any other organization that may be affiliated with this particular foundation. As you go down, you'll see a little bit about their background, their program area. Very important for your grant writing. Because for me, if I was writing a grant, I'd be looking at this part, and then I'd go up to funding interest, and I'd say, I work in education and secondary education as well. Okay, we're talking about that in our proposal. They work with health a little bit as well. We do student services. I would be talking about all that. Why? Because I want them to know that your interests are our interests as well. We would be a perfect partnership. Keep on going here. Other funders to consider. Here, they just kind of suggest other funders that are in the same grain as this particular foundation. Sometimes I find that I don't know why they suggested some, and sometimes it's right on the money. So definitely always look. And this is the bread and butter, the applications and the request for proposals. So this is something new they just put into FDO. This is new as in like last month. Where they put the current RFPs, and where you wouldn't believe how long this took for them to be able to do this, because all that, computer, I'm doing like finger typing motions right now, all that computer stuff that I'm lucky enough to not have to deal with on a day-to-day. But this makes it really easy for you to be able to just go down and see, are they taking anything right now? Sometimes people just need to get in, see that, and move on to the next one if they have a deadline. So here, you can always just click on applications and RFPs. It's going to tell you the initial approach. Go right to the website, super easy. When does the board meet? Every single year in November. When is the deadline? 90 days before the need. When is the application notice? 4 weeks after. So after you got your application, they will let you know 4 weeks after that, that either you got it or you didn't, which is a really quick turnaround and really wonderful. That's why I love the corporate, because they, it's a little bit more streamlined. And this is the current RFP that they have right now. So you come on down. This is talking about the giving limitations. Please don't ignore this part. This is really important. What if you guys work in education and you guys feel like you're one of these organizations, a political organization or a religious organization? They don't want to fund those if they don't know them. So keep in mind, if you're a brand new partner and you're affiliated, or you guys are one of these types of organizations, they may not fund you. That doesn't mean they definitely won't, but per the information that they volunteered to us, they probably won't work with those types of organizations. Super important for you to know. We're going down. This is going to talk about their financials. You can find the most up-to-date 990 here. So I will hope that they turned in one this year, because they are every 2 years, but the IRS is not going to snatch Delta's 501c3 like they would do one of us little folks. This is their total assets and their total givings. As you can see, this is my mind. If their total giving is more than the total assets, that makes me feel like, they're, quote, doing what they're supposed to. I hope that's true. Let's go on down. Who's who? This is super important if you're looking to court this organization. What you're going to do is you're going to look at this who's who. Now, some organizations, you'll see, let's see if they have it. Oh, they don't have it right here, but you'll see the little LinkedIn symbol. And so if you see that, you can just click on it and you can go straight to their LinkedIn, which I think is super helpful. Here in the donor part, this is going to tell you who is their main donor. Okay, and if this is a person who has passed, you'll see that little symbol. With those, I'll show you one of the smaller organizations, but a lot of times, like, I don't know, I'm just going to pull one out, like Whitehead, which is a foundation here in Atlanta. When you click there, you see like Joseph Whitehead is the donor. So it's just interesting to see that, because that lets you know, like, this is somebody's passion project. Someone had a purpose, had an issue area that they cared so deeply about that they started an organization to be able to give dollars towards that particular purpose or that issue area. So think about it like that if you are writing smaller organizations. And this is helpful to just know who it is that is running the foundation that you may be courting. Super helpful for that. We're going on down. Communications. This is Philanthropy News Digest. This is one of our publications that talks all about the wonderful world of philanthropy. And if you see this in the grant maker profile, then that means that we have mentioned this particular grant maker. And then this is the all news items. This is just gonna talk about other articles that were written about this grant maker. It's longer than I thought it was gonna be. Okay, great. And now we're at the very bottom, which may be the most important, depending on how you look at things. So this is how you contact them. This talks about any additional location information. Sometimes that's really important, especially if you're doing like a funding match or something like that with another foundation. We got a telephone number and an email address. If there's an email address for a foundation, I do say, send them an email. I do say that. That's a very controversial opinion here at Candid. But I personally, I'm kind of a people person, and sometimes in certain instances, I know that if I have the opportunity to have a conversation with someone, then I can help them see my vision a little bit better than something written. And so if you were to contact a foundation, I wouldn't say contact Delta, because it's just, I don't know if there's a point to do that. But the smaller foundations who don't know you and kind of feel like they may not ever know you, those are the ones I would definitely contact. The smoking gun is that you don't always see any contact information. A lot of times there's an address and it's a PO box and that's it. So with that being said, if you do see an email address or a phone number, don't just call, cold call. Come up with a really, really, really good reason to call, especially if you have decided you're going to send in that application Whoever you speak with, hold on to this person's name and email. Do not bug them, but feel free to maybe send them correspondence here and there when it is absolutely important. If you guys had a wonderful event and someone wrote up something, a blog, I would send it to that program officer. Even if they have denied me for a grant, I would still keep in touch with them, because just because it was a no today, that doesn't mean it's going to be a no next year. And the thing is, Candid loves to say, if you know one grant maker, or if you know one foundation, you know one foundation. And that's that. So just keep in mind, everyone's different. Every foundation may not enjoy having people call or email. A lot of times they just won't have that information up if they don't want that. But just make sure you're reading the room, and you have something really pertinent and something that is gonna kind of boost your profile to say before you contact them. So I'm gonna go, and I'm just gonna quickly show you guys one of our local. Let's look at Guazetta. Notoriously extremely meticulous about who they fund. It's a really, really good foundation. Last updated the profile in August. Grant information was in June though. We're going down, we're looking at their 5-year glance. Look at this, philanthropy, how much? So tiny, it doesn't even want to show me. Less than 1,782,000. Education, over 105 million. Who did they give to? Here in Georgia, overwhelmingly. Florida got a few, Alabama got a few, Minnesota got a few. See, Illinois is in there, got a few. Michigan got a couple. How big are the grants? 100K through 500K. That's the main number that they give. 48 grants in the last 5 years in that amount. Some $1 million grants in here though. So this is the type of, this is like the dream funder. This is the funder that you're utilizing Coca-Cola, Bank of America, Delta to finally get to them. You're being a great partner for all of them. They're sponsoring things. They're coming back year after year. You've got a couple of years of outcomes under your belt. Now you're ready for the big time. That's Guazetta. That's who you're looking at. So just keep that in mind. We're going down. Let's look at their funding interests. Not a lot. Who are their population groups? Not a lot. Where did they give to? Not a lot of places. And see, this is the geographic focus, but as we saw, as I stated, those are not the only places that they gave dollars to. So you can pretty much ascertain that if they gave dollars to someone in Alabama, that these are organizations that they know for a fact that they're going to get a return on those dollars. They know that. There's no question about it. They're not taking a chance. These organizations, you would think that they take chances. They don't like to take chances. They're not very adventurous. They're very tight, notoriously, with their dollars, and they want to make sure that if they give you those dollars, not only do you appreciate it, but you're going to make sure that you are helping the issue area that you agreed to help. Okay, other funders to consider. Applications and RFPs. Initial approach, see website. No information at all. And here we go. I don't see anything there. Last 990 was 17. That was a while ago, guys. Total assets, 653 million. Total giving, 30 million. They're very notoriously tight with their dollars. Let's look at the who's who. Got the staff here. Let's look at the donors. Miss Olga Guazetta. Okay, so that lets you know everything you need to know. Someone whose name is associated with this foundation sits on this board. So with that being said, these dollars that are coming out have probably been handpicked by these individuals. And as you can see, they only have 4 people that work there. And in my opinion, that's a lot. You don't usually even see that many people. And this talks about Juliana. She's very, very sweet, very nice person. Let's go down. And so this is how you contact them: website, telephone. This tells you a little bit more about their area and their congressional district. So I hope this gave you a really good idea of what it's going to look like when you guys go in to see the different profiles, there is a little bit of a difference between the corporate and the local funders. The good thing about the local funders is that maybe someone you know may know someone there, and don't discount that. I would ask every person on the board to, I mean, even I've heard of organizations asking their board, write down a list of the individuals or a list of the companies where you know people, even if it's the janitor. Just give us the name and let us figure out how we can work through that and be able to make these introductions. And so that is FDO Essential in a nutshell. Now, I was going to show you guys how to get back to up here. So you can look at the 990s real quick, just to give you an idea of what that looks like in the system. It's the actual 990s, guys. Let's see, Advocates for Youth. So when I first started combing through these, I was like, oh, you didn't even, I thought someone would nicely like type it up for me, but no, this is the actual 990. I've looked through some that are, 50 or 60 pages long, trying to find information. So that's why GuideStar and FDO they're really a godsend. And so just going through, you can say you don't see information you're looking for, like, you could be looking for salaries, trying to get to know a little bit more about this organization to see where their money actually goes. That's where the 990 comes in. So any questions? Let's see, I did see something up in the chat. There we go. Okay, thank you so much for sending the FDO link. I'm going to go ahead and put my email address here. So feel free to take that down. If you have immediate questions about getting into FDO, you definitely can contact Jocelyn for that. If you have those intense questions, especially about specifics when it comes to grant writing, capacity building, funding acquisition, things of that nature, feel free to reach out to me. And if I have to facilitate to send you to someone else, I'll make sure you get the right people. And if I can answer that question, I absolutely will. Definitely also log on to Candid Learning, learning.candid.org, and take a look at the classes we have, free and paid. The paid ones we have some good ones, including our proposal writing boot camp, which is our premier class that we offer. And that's a 3-day boot camp. I just actually took it in October as a participant, even though I still had to facilitate classes, but I did get to take it, and it was intense. It was very intense. They worked really hard to switch it over from in-person to remote. So feel free to take a peek and see what you can find there. We are a rabbit hole of information. So enjoy, have fun. And Jocelyn, thank you so much. I think that is intro to FDO.
Well, thank you for doing this for us. It's a lot of information. The certification that I did was this and then some. They do have that y'all do offer a certification class too. Anybody have any questions? Oh, I guess everyone's very quiet today.
Well, it's a lot to take in, this particular application, a lot of times it takes a few times of using it just to really catch the flow and the rhythm of it, because it is based off that algorithm, and it's a little confusing to figure out, if you're putting the right information in, am I being too broad? Do I need to narrow it down? But after a few times, it gets a little bit more intuitive. So yeah, hopefully they have the opportunity to play with it today and tomorrow. And you guys are in a good position right now, because eventually next year, they're going to change it so that you only have 24-hour access. But for now, you don't. You have access forever until that happens. So please enjoy, have fun with it.
I put my my email, my Junior League contact email address as well, so they can contact me or contact you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I noticed that the FDO link that we currently have expires December 31st. Do you know when we're going to be getting a new one, or will we be continuing to use that one?
They're probably going to send you the new one because that's probably due to renewal. Y'all's renewal is probably on the first, I'm thinking, of the year. Most of
Yes.
you guys are. So I think they'll just update the link for you. I don't think you will have to do anything. But if something does not turn over naturally, then please forensically send me that email so we can get that taken care of. But I think it automatically does it.
Okay. And if you're applying for grants, you can apply all year round. You don't have to necessarily apply at the beginning of the year or the end of the year, correct?
Well, that's going to be dependent on what the foundation says. So that's
Mhm.
why you go into the application and RFPs. So it could tell you what their deadlines are and things of that nature, because it's different for every foundation. So all we do is offer the information of where you can find those grants. And so from that point on, they kind of take it from there. So it just depends. Some of them are ongoing and rolling, and some do have deadlines.
Okay. All right. So does anybody else here have any questions about using the FDO? Okay, then. Well,
Okay, awesome.
well, thank you, Alexis.
Thank you,
And I
Jocelyn.
appreciate you taking the time from your day to teach us. And thank you for your email, and I left mine as well. And anybody that has any questions can certainly reach out to either one of us.
Awesome. Thank y'all so much for your time, and happy hunting. And let us know if you find anything from FDO. That's the new thing. We're starting to tell people if you get a grant from it, send us an email, let us know. Like, we would love to like highlight you or something like that. So if you guys have any luck, send me an email, let me know. I would love to know.
All right. Certainly. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Jocelyn. Everybody
Okay.
have a wonderful day.
Bye.
Bye.